Okay, this is Jimmy Jive, and you're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today I have one of the best lead vocalists I've heard in a very long time from one of the best progressive metal rock bands I've heard in a long time, especially at a local level. Anyway, today my guest is the singer from Wisher. Her name is Kayleigh. How you doing, Kayleigh?
Hi, hey.
Let's start with a little background. Let me know where you're from, how you got into music, singing specifically.
Well, I'm from Michigan. I was born at Ann Arbor, U of M. Go Blue. Sorry, state fans. Yeah, I started singing really young because I have a lot of influences in my family that all music.
Right.
Everybody. My dad is a singer, my aunt's a singer, my uncle is a singer. My uncle actually had some pretty cool success in the country world. His name's Mark Richardson. He used to be in a band called Mark Richardson in Tequila Town, and then he was in a band called Shotguns and Violins. He did a lot of really cool things when I was younger, and I remember him inspiring me a lot. I remember seeing him play at the Bay City Fireworks and just being like, wow, it was a huge crowd long time ago, and me thinking, I want to do that.
Of course.
My mom loves like folk and 70s music, and then my biological dad, he liked heavy metal, and he told me that when I was still in my mom's belly that he played Black Sabbath on her belly in headphones. So he instilled it in me to be a metalhead for sure, but I've also, I put Eminem in my top favorite artists and Christina Aguilera, so I'm not just metal, I have a lot of influences, I like Norah Jones and Joss Stone. Those are all singer influences on me, as well as the Dio and the Ozzy. So the first song I actually ever sang on a stage for an actual performance was Cowboy Take Me Away by the Dixie Chicks.
Oh, okay.
And that was actually what would become to be my high school auditorium stage. And then by the time I was a senior and doing all of the choir, because I was in the top audition choir and all that. I had never been in a musical before, but once I got my black belt in karate, I was like, okay, I have time to do more of the musical stuff. And I thought, I'm just going to get background ensemble. And I ended up getting the lead in Tarzan, so I was Jane my senior year. Wow. And that was a huge deal to me. I really love musical theater and all that, and I tried to incorporate a lot of those theatrics into Wisher. And when I started Wisher, it was always going to be about being a big, dramatic, heavy, symphonic metal style band because of that. I just love the fact that in symphonic metal and all of those European bands like Nightwish and Sonata Arctica and all them, and Dream Theater even, Rush, they bring in a lot of sounds that match the heavy metal, and it's like you don't have to feel like you're stuck in a box with genres. I don't like categorizing us as we're this very particular subcategory, in this little special niche. I mean, I like being broad because that's where my influences are. My influences are extremely broad, as you can tell.
Right.
So
Absolutely. Is Wisher the first group you've been in, or first rock band or band of any kind that you were in?
No. See, I started a band right out of high school, and we were calling ourselves Angelic Fiction because Avenged Sevenfold's my favorite band, and I was super inspired by the Rev, their drummer that passed away in 2009. And he had a big tattoo down his chest that said Fiction, and I called us Angelic Fiction. That was my first attempt to start a band, but that fell through quickly because we were a bunch of high schoolers, and I had some really negative people around me at the time. And then I joined a cover band called the Cover Bandits, and then I was in the Cover Bandits for 10 years, kind of. I mean, from the time, seems like 10 years. I think the band was around, let's see. I started in, maybe it was 7 years I was in the band. We're doing rough estimates because
I understand, no problem.
There was a lot of partying going on in that band.
Of course.
It was my first, induction into a cover band and into that world, and, I'm really grateful for it. But, the founder and guitar player of that band, slash drummer, because he drummed and he played guitar in that band. He passed away in 2021, and he was also the original guitar player for Wisher. When I started Wisher, he was kind of like my co-writer in the beginning with doing all that, because a singer's best friend is their lead guitarist, because we're the melody. So he was kind of like my starter, and then we had Jake and Noah that started in the band. All of us met at Dime in Detroit when we were all going to school together, but Dime doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
What is Dime?
It's the Detroit Institute of Music Education. It was supposed to be a contemporary, practical school for musicians trying to make it in the industry, and we got to work with a lot of big industry professionals trying to teach us how to make it in the music business. It was pretty much like a college that wasn't all prim and proper about music. It was mainly about just a practical way to make it in today's music world. There's still a lot of kids from Dime that are all in bands in Detroit right now. I think that school was really great for connecting all of us, and kind of, COVID proved to us whether or not we really wanted to be in music or not, because school shut down, and then OU picked them up and tried to help them because they had to be accredited by somebody. And I think it was hard for them to get an accreditation because they weren't really a proper school, I guess I could say, in air quotations, because it was very, like one of my favorite classes, for example, was pop song analysis with Dave Levy. He does YouTube videos where he critiques new music. He's great. He was one of my favorite teachers there, and that class was seriously just taking the most popular music on the top 100 and slicing it apart and analyzing it and asking ourselves, why is this popular, and how did this artist make this song, who's all involved, what did the label do? Like, we really just dissected into the details of how the industry works. And it was a great experience, but when it died kind of brutal, because I can't use any of my credits from there. I've tried. Some people didn't graduate, when they were supposed to. I think the last kids got to graduate, but it is what it is. COVID kind of really turned the world upside down.
Now, at a school like that, doing those kind of classes, did your teacher give you assignments, or was it more or less all like, well, what kind of assignments would you have? You said something about dissecting pop music and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Would he say, here, take this song and tell me why it's popular? I mean, how exactly did he determine as a teacher how to teach you that?
It was definitely, so our final, for example, was a presentation combined with media and an essay and a speech. Like, one of my classes I took was a public speaking class, and that was part of the thing, is like we would just write up essays and present them, and part of that pop song analysis class was using multimedia, present the ideas to the class and explain why things were the way they were and how. A lot of it's the mechanics too. It's like you would get knocked down points if you didn't cite all of your sources. Got to use your sources, got to talk about who was involved, how much money went into it, why, and sometimes artists will have to pay for things themselves because labels won't run it and things like that. Important details. Are there any samples in the song? Where's the sample from? And then what about that song? And I think my last final, I did 2 finals. I did one on Amy Winehouse, and I got knocked down points because he said, gushing about Amy too much. Not talking about the details of why she was so great, in terms of technical terms. And then another song I did for a final was Without Me by Eminem, which was a really fun thing to dissect. And I had a whole poster board, all sorts of information on it. I mean, we're talking about the music video, where was the video aired, what went into that. So it was really just about understanding why these artists became the way they became. And I think this is good stuff for any musician. You can do this without going to school.
That's good for, especially from a business aspect of it and all that, and learning about songwriting too. What works, what doesn't work. And do you feel, though, I'm a bit older than you are, I'm sure, based on your the groups that you're into, and from my knowledge of how most songs got popular in the past was basically the media made them that way. They
Yeah.
forced them so much in the public. Back in my day, radio was programmed by the jock. They had a programmed actor and they projected it that way. But now it's all corporate. They decide what the hits are going to be. They force it down the throat of the consumer to where it's like, hey, you're going to like Taylor Swift whether you like it or not. Because if we saturate you enough with it, it just becomes a mindset. Was any of that taught at that time in that class as far as that?
Oh, yeah.
So what was the thought on that then? I mean, you can break a song down into, like you said, okay, this is done this way, this is done at this studio, this money has gone into it, but the basic underlying factor is the song itself, and who determines if it's good or not. The public determines that, but how does the public determine that other than hearing it enough times,
Well, yeah, I mean, the industry has changed so drastically even since being at Dime.
Sure.
And all of musician people alike are trying to navigate. And people like yourself, you're doing these interviews and streaming because podcasting and that type of thing is where it's at right now, and that's where it's headed. That's the popular thing, is this play listening style, because people are on the move. They have their headphones in. I do it every day. I listen to books.
Right.
My Audible membership is a required thing for me every month. And I've listened to a lot of books about the music industry and about self-help. I really like Tony Robbins. I like Mandy Morris and Jen Sincero. A lot of people that have, they're in that self-help spiritual part of the industry as well. And I think all of the media platforms, we all coexist. I mean, this whole world, we all function together. So all of these multimedia platforms and art industry alike, I think all of us are connected on a level that, the competitive ones do not understand, because there's plenty to eat here for all of us. Somebody, playing at one venue is not going to hurt the other venue too much. There's plenty of people around, and there's plenty of people who aren't going to go out anyways.
Yeah, you don't need to really anyway. I mean, with the with the internet and YouTube, get a couple friends that go to videotape it, you can see the whole show from your house, whether or not COVID existed or not. As to the industry and learning all that about that, what are your feelings as to whether the industry exists? Most people don't, because back in my day, the whole purpose of being, well, maybe not the whole purpose, but young bands wanted to get signed, to get record deal. There's not really much as far as that anymore, because everything's media. Everything's streaming. I mean, there are some platforms with CDs and vinyl a bit, but it's totally a different direction than it was 20, 30 years ago. And that's got to make it really tough for bands and new artists to get the attention other than through the internet, which of course obviously can reach a lot more people, but there are a lot more people out there doing it too, with or without talent. What do you think about that as far as the labels and the whole business side?
I was a music business major at Dime, actually. I, never got my degree, but that's what I was studying. Because I already have, vocal background. I was in, the top choirs, and I know how to read music. And, the vocal program didn't make sense to me because I felt like I already knew, kind of what I was doing with my voice. So I decided to do music business because that's where I was weaker. And a really great mentor and head of the music department, the music business department, was Steph Belcher. And one of the things she mentioned about all of that was, you need to have a really, really strong why. So why are you doing this? Because in terms of signing to a label or getting involved with anything like that, you need to know why. And you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. Everybody is different. The world is not as limited as it used to be.
Right.
Where I see it as a positive. There's lots of ways to make income. People are streaming on Twitch. I know a band that really inspired the name of Wisher is Kaleido, and they do a Patreon, and they just released a comic book.
Wow.
If you're doing multimedia programs with your band and your brand, you're building a small business. It's a brand, free market style type thing with the internet. And there's multiple ways you can make income. I'm still working on all that.
Right.
But I make more money doing live professional cover gigs, which I have a gig tonight. It's just acoustic. And you just keep playing covers and until I guess the right person sees you and wants to manage you or whatever, but I'm not going to just gamble on that, you know. I'm going to continue to manage myself and try to learn and get better at what I'm doing. I think any artist nowadays definitely is aware, at least most of us are, that there can be upside down 360 type deals where you get screwed over by labels.
Anyway, as far as Wisher themselves, what's happening with the band then? You mentioned like tonight you're going out and doing some cover type show tonight. Mm-hmm. Is Wisher not playing consistently enough to where you're playing enough with them that you have to do this, or you just enjoy doing it then?
So right now, Wisher is in the mode of we're investing into it to get paid for it eventually, you know?
Right.
We're very niche in that we're heavy metal, so it's not really easy to get us into a lot of gigs that are cover gigs because all the covers we know are heavy metal, you know?
Right.
Like, we know some Paramore and Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco because I grew up in a time when those emo bands, they call them, that was like a huge deal. And Patrick Stump and Hayley Williams and Brendan Urie are like huge vocal influences on me. And Wisher knows all that, but it's hard to get Wisher cover gigs. And we don't really want people to think Wisher is, you know, too much of a cover band. So we separate that. We separate our tributes and our covers, and we try to, you know, coexist with Wisher. But Wisher is ultimately, in my mind, Wisher is the sun, and everything I do revolves around building that because Wisher is my brand and my baby. I'm the one that started it. It's always been about making an impact on the world with open-minded music so that it can reach as many people as possible. That's why our slogan paired with our logo is the Universal Dream. That's a line from Limelight by Rush. Mm-hmm. And that's like about the universal dream, whatever it means to you. I usually tell people because universally music is communicative to all of us, to all, like sound, vibration, all of that frequency. Every single living being on the planet is connected to that. So that's like that universal dream of connection in an authentic and positive way. I want to emphasize the positive because there are a lot of artists dive into that negative and dark imagery. Mm-hmm. And it works because negativity really does draw a lot of attention. It's really hard to ignore it because it is so strong. But I personally believe that love is stronger, and that's where I'm going to stand. And it's just like this constant battle of, you know, the good and the evil in the world coexisting with each other. And I want to be a good guy. With Wisher, it's like these are all the dreamers. These are the people that are wishing for a better way to be. That's why I do this. It's like, and because I'm supposed to be doing it. Like ever since I was young, I just always knew that this was me. I was always wanting to be in the music room, who I am. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop doing what I'm doing. There's been times when you ask yourself, is this worth it? Because you're going through the roundabouts of people ignoring you and telling you, you know, they don't care, they don't believe in you, and over and over and over again. You should find a backup plan, a better job. And it's like, I can't stop. I can't. Even if I wanted to stop, I am going to be on a stage until I die. That's just who I am. It's
you gotta stay true to yourself, in your heart.
Yeah, I couldn't. I would rather die than stop what I'm doing with music. Truly, that's how I feel about it. How strongly I feel about it.
Well, that is awesome. Earlier, two things. First of all, you had mentioned it's kind of difficult for Wisher to get some of these gigs because wanting to be perceived as a cover band. You guys know Paramore, Sauce, Fall Out Boys. Why would a band like Wisher even be doing those kind of covers? Why not be doing more like Dream Theater or Rush? Stuff that would fall more into place with, the type of band you are or the type of band or music. I mean, is it harder to get those gigs? Is what you're saying? There's more open clubs for doing Fall Out Boy and some of this other stuff that's a bit more,
I would say so, yeah. I'd say so. But I honestly, in my experience in being in a cover band for 10 years now it's been 10 years for sure I've been in a cover band because I'm in 2 other cover bands right now as well. Those types of bands make money. And that's like, playing music like, I don't know, I'm playing Nora Jones tonight and Tasha Bedingfield and, hit songs. And then
Sure.
in sound projects, sometimes we do Heart, we do Rush. Wisher covered YYZ, Anthem, and Fly By Night. And like Wisher also covers Avenged Sevenfold and No Doubt. Like I'm super broad, in terms of what I'm inspired by. We also have like Dio songs we really like to do, and Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Motley Crue. Like have a lot of influences in this band.
Sure.
So I think the main thing is that Wisher is focusing on making the shows we play now very special, and it takes a lot of time and money into making those shows special.
I guess the last thing I wanted to ask you was, do you play any instruments? Do you play piano or a little bit of guitar as far as the songwriting part of the group? Or do you write most of the lyrics, or a little bit of both?
Yes, I write all the lyrics and all the vocals. That's my thing. I'm very, very involved in writing and reading in general. Part of my game plan is that when I become an old lady, I will write books. And I'll have a really cool library studio where I just write books when I'm old. That's kind of like the coming down from the touring. That's what I'll be doing, is writing. So for me, poetry is very important to me. I love Jim Morrison. I know you were talking about the artist that I'm super into. I'm really into the Doors. And I love Jim Morrison. Stephen Davis's book on him was great. And like the concept of the poetry that Jim wrote, I have several of his poem books. And so poetry is really important to me. I will always be the songwriter in terms of writing the lyrics because that's just what I do. I play piano and I play guitar. I started on piano lessons when I was in 6th grade. So when was I, 11? And my mom was like, this is the one thing you are not allowed to quit. You have to stay in piano. So I stayed in piano until my senior year. And I still play now. I'm just not as practiced. But I just did a performance for a singer-songwriter thing this past Monday where I played piano and sang with myself. It wasn't perfect because I don't practice enough, but writing, if you look up the song by Wisher, I called it Wisher, but it's just me and piano, is Honey Eyes. That's just me and piano. That's that whole song. And there's another song coming up called Better People. I posted little clips and reels of it on my profile, but that's a really important song. So I've been working in the studio with that one, trying to get it ready for the band to get involved. Because I don't know, do you like the song I'd Love to Change the World by 10 Years After?
Oh, of course. That's generation.
One of my favorite songs. One of my favorite songs of all time. When I saw, and I know I combined a lot of weird things. So that song plus Bo Burnham, I don't know if you know who Bo Burnham is, but Bo Burnham came out with a special during COVID called Inside, and he plays piano and he plays a little bit of guitar, and he's like a comedy musician. He, at the end of his special, that album got me through COVID. At the end of his special, he was like, I'll sit on the couch and watch you next time. And I seriously got done with it after crying because it was just so emotionally moving. And I sat at my piano and I started this song. And this song, it's a very important song. I could just feel it in my bones. And it didn't come from me. It was just totally inspired. And I'm playing piano on it in the studio, trying to program a click track right now so that the band can get on it. And I want the band to be like 10 years after guitar style type of thing. I want that ethereal 70s rock, 60s rock kind of vibe to it, plus piano. And I know this is not conventional for a symphonic metal band. I can't justify us starting a new project or me releasing it by myself. I did release a song by myself, but I really don't care about Kayleigh Can as a brand. I care about Wisher. So I'm trying to give this song to Wisher. So I'm like, okay, if this is a Wisher song, we need more Wisher members on the song. So the guitar players and I are working on it. But the keys are a huge part of my songwriting. Noah, the drummer, he plays piano on Crocata. That's the most recent song that came out. He wrote that song on all piano.
Wow.
He's the drummer.
That's incredible.
So, and then Emily came in and she did all of those lead guitars on Crocata are our girl. That's Emily.
Wow, cool.
She shreds like no man. I can tell everybody that. And she gets better and better. We're like her first band, and she has only performed live like 6 times.
Wow. Okay. That's
I
awesome.
mean, she's just killing it. So I'm really proud. I've always wanted harmony guitars in my music. So that writing, all of us write together. Like for the next song, Steel Sharpens Steel is what it's called. I wrote a chorus on my phone where I just sang the chorus in my voice memos, and then I gave it to my bass player and my drummer because the guitar players weren't around, and they just figured out how to play with me while I was singing to them, and I just sang to them over and over again, and then they figured it out. And then Drake and Emily came in, and then we structured the rest of the song around that chorus. Drake calls it a Frankenstein chorus. I'm really proud of the way Wisher functions. We're a really strong group right now, and I think that in terms of friendship, I trust everybody very much, and I believe in everybody very much. It's like finally it's a good lineup for us right now, so I'm hanging on to that. And
cool. Don't ever let go of your dream. Just, stay real to yourself and keep it going. Because that's the only way to become a success. Exactly. I read somewhere where David Bowie back in the day knew that to make it, he had to make it in the United States. And he and some of his artistic friends said, well, the way to make it in the United States, come over like you've already made it. And Bowie came over here at that time and pretty much just acted like a rock star, acted like a star. Dressed the part, traveled around limousines, and it just caught on. No, I'm not saying you should do that, but I'm just saying he believed enough in himself that he could pull that off. Yes. You gotta believe in yourself. That's the key thing. You'll have doubts. Everybody has doubt. The true artists are the ones, at least I get the feeling, that are like you, that are in it for the right reason. Understand that, you're a vessel, an otherworldly vessel that's being channeled for this purpose. And that's, to me, that's incredible, because there are so many of them, from my time now, whatever, that just want the fame and don't care about the actual work that goes into it. It's a lot of work, as you know.
Yeah, if your only goal is the fame, I mean, you're going to sacrifice your values for it. And I'm not ever going to do that. Even if it takes me longer.
Yeah.
It might be taking me a little bit longer because I'm doing it this way, but it's worth it to me to not just take shortcuts and cheat.
And you're never too old either. Never too old.
I just turned 27 in November. The rest of the band is younger than me. Everybody's in their 20s. I think Drake and Emily are the youngest. They're 24.
You got plenty of time, as long as you keep at it the way you are, keep your eye on the prize. And the prize to me seems to be you want to just relay your music out and have an effect on the world in a positive way, which to me is awesome. That's the most important part. Well, anyway, it's been really awesome talking to you. I wish you the best. I will definitely keep an eye out for you as far as your music. And drop me a line from time to time as far as, like you said, you guys are working on a music video, possibly some new music. Okay, that was Kayleigh from Wisher, a very insightful young lady, a very talented vocalist. I think she's got her head on straight. She seems to be headed in the right direction, has a definite pedigree background in what she's planning on doing and wanting to do, and I wish her and her band and all the success in the world. Anyway, this is Jimmy Jive from Motor City Rock Talk saying, keep rocking.